Hello everyone, I hope you're all having a beautiful day. Today, we're about to witness one of the most emotional and heartwarming moments in Jack and Tu Tien's story. The day Tu Tien wakes up to discover a miracle she never imagined. The doctor's words change everything. She's expecting twins, a boy and a girl. Their joy fills the room, bringing Jack, his mother, and Tu Tien closer than ever. It's a story about love, rebirth, and the promise of a new beginning after every storm. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss the next episode. Phuong Bac Hospital shimmered under the soft morning light, but inside the ultrasound room, everything fell still. The hum of machines faded as Tu Tien lay quietly on the bed, her fingers intertwined with Jack's. His hand trembled slightly, his heart pounding louder than any sound in the room. The doctor adjusted the probe, eyes fixed on the monitor, and then smiled. A warm, gentle smile that carried both relief and awe. "There they are," she said softly. "Both babies are healthy. One boy, one girl, twins." For a moment, time itself seemed to hold its breath. Tu Tien blinked in disbelief, her lips parting as she tried to absorb the words. Jack froze beside her, then turned toward the screen, his eyes welling up instantly. "Twins," he whispered, voice trembling with joy. The doctor nodded. "Yes, a little dragon and a little phoenix," she said with a grin. "Both hearts are beating strong." Tu Tien's breath caught. Her whole body trembled as a wave of emotion swept through her. Shock, joy, and something deeper, like sunlight breaking through a long, dark tunnel. Tears streamed down her cheeks uncontrollably. She reached for Jack's hand, gripping it as if anchoring herself to this miraculous reality. Jack leaned closer, his own eyes glistening. "Tu Tien," he murmured, his voice breaking. "We're going to have twins." For the first time in what felt like forever, laughter and tears blended together. Jack pressed his forehead gently to her hand, overcome by emotion. The doctor smiled, printing out the ultrasound images and placing them in Tu Tien's trembling hands. "Take good care of yourself," the doctor said warmly. "Eat well, rest well. They're small now, but they're strong." Tu Tien nodded, clutching the black and white image close to her chest as though holding her future in her palms. The sight of the two tiny figures, one on each side, filled her with wonder. A boy and a girl, two hearts beating together inside her. Jack turned to the doctor, his voice husky. "Thank you, doctor. You've just given us the best news of our lives." As they stepped out of the examination room, the corridor outside seemed to glow brighter than before. The sounds of footsteps, distant laughter, and hospital chatter all melted into the background. Jack placed his arm around Tu Tien's shoulders, steadying her. "You did amazing," he whispered. "You're incredible." Tu Tien leaned against him, her smile soft and radiant. "I can't believe it," she said, tears still glimmering. "Two babies, Jack, a boy and a girl." Jack laughed through his tears, unable to contain the happiness that spilled out of him. "You've given me the greatest gift anyone ever could," he said. "You've given me a family." They stopped near a bench by the hospital garden, where sunlight filtered through the leaves, dappling the ground in gold. Tu Tien sat down, still holding the ultrasound photos. The gentle breeze brushed her face, carrying the faint scent of jasmine. Jack knelt in front of her, his hands resting on her knees. "I want you to know," he said, looking deeply into her eyes, "no matter what storms come, I'll protect all three of you. You, our little dragon, and our little phoenix." Tu Tien smiled through her tears. "And I'll take care of you too," she whispered. "We'll do this together." Just then, a familiar voice called out, "Jack! Tu Tien!" They turned to see Jack's mother rushing toward them, her gray hair shining under the sunlight, her eyes wide with concern and hope. "What did the doctor say?" she asked, breathless. Jack grinned, his face glowing. "Mom, it's twins." For a heartbeat, Mrs. Ly, his mother, stood frozen. Then she let out a joyful cry, covering her mouth as tears of happiness filled her eyes. "Oh my goodness!" she exclaimed, rushing to Tu Tien's side. "Twins! My dear, that's a blessing from heaven." Tu Tien nodded shyly, smiling as Mrs. Ly took her hands. The older woman's joy was pure and contagious. She laughed, crying at the same time. "A boy and a girl, a perfect pair," she said. "Jack, you hear that? You'll have double the sleepless nights." Jack laughed, wiping his eyes. "I'll take them all, Mom, every single night." Mrs. Ly sat beside Tu Tien and gently patted her belly, her eyes soft with affection. "You take good care of yourself, sweetheart. You've been through so much, but now you have the light back in your life." Tu Tien's eyes shimmered as she whispered, "I feel like I've been given a second chance." Jack's mother nodded, smiling through her tears. "And we'll make sure this family stays strong, no matter what." The three of them sat together under the shade of the hospital garden, laughter and tears mingling in the sunlight. It was a moment of peace, of rebirth, of hope restored. That evening, as they drove home, the sunset painted the horizon in deep orange and gold. Tu Tien rested her head against the window, one hand on her belly, the other clutching Jack's. "What are you thinking about?" he asked softly. She smiled faintly. "I was thinking how strange it is," she said. "Just a few weeks ago, I didn't even know what tomorrow would look like. And now I'm imagining two little ones running around the house." Jack chuckled quietly. "A boy who will chase frogs in the field, and a girl who will pick flowers for you." She laughed, the sound light and full of life. "And you'll spoil them both, I know it." "I probably will," he admitted, grinning. "But you'll balance me out, like you always do." When they arrived at the house, Mrs. Ly was already in the kitchen, bustling around with excitement. The aroma of soup filled the air. Sit down, she called out. "No heavy lifting for the mama-to-be." Tu Tien smiled as she sat, watching Jack and his mother move around the kitchen, laughing, teasing each other, preparing dinner like they used to before the storms. For the first time, she felt something she hadn't felt in months: peace. Jack came to sit beside her, handing her a bowl. "You're glowing," he said softly. Tu Tien smiled. "It's happiness," she replied. I finally understand what it means to feel at home." Jack took her hand, his thumb brushing over her ring. "Home isn't just the house," he said. "It's you, me, and them." Tu Tien looked at the photo of the ultrasound lying on the table, illuminated by the warm glow of the kitchen light. Two small figures, two small heartbeats, two futures intertwined. As the night deepened, laughter filled the room, mingling with the gentle sound of the wind outside. For once, the world felt calm, a fragile yet beautiful calm born from love, hope, and the promise of new beginnings. The next morning dawned with the gentle hum of life. The fields beyond the farmhouse shimmered under a soft mist, golden rays spreading like blessings from heaven. Jack stepped out onto the porch, coffee cup in hand, breathing in the scent of wet soil. He turned back toward the door when he heard soft footsteps. Tu Tien, wrapped in a pale shawl, her hands resting protectively over her belly. "Morning," Jack said with a grin. "Did the twins let you sleep last night?" She smiled faintly. "Barely. I think they were dancing," she teased. "Maybe the little one takes after you, restless and loud." Jack laughed, the sound full of affection. "Then we'll have our hands full." He reached for her hand, drawing her close. "But I wouldn't trade it for anything." Together they stood in silence, watching the sun climb higher, painting the rice fields in molten gold. The sound of birds filled the air, simple, peaceful, grounding. Tu Tien leaned against Jack's shoulder, whispering, "I never imagined I'd see a morning like this again." He turned to her, his eyes soft. "Every sunrise from now on, we'll watch together, you, me, and our two little miracles." A tender smile spread across her face. She could feel his heartbeat steady and strong through his shirt, a rhythm that matched the faint pulse of the new lives within her. Later that day, the house buzzed with laughter and movement. Mrs. Ly had invited a few neighbors over to celebrate the news. A bouquet of wildflowers sat on the table, and the smell of fresh-baked bread filled the air. "Look at this glow," one neighbor exclaimed, placing a hand on Tu Tien's shoulder. "A boy and a girl. That's a blessing." Tu Tien smiled shyly. "Yes, we're very lucky." Jack beamed as he showed the ultrasound photo around, like a proud child showing off a trophy. "See? 2 hearts, 2 futures. The doctor said they're strong already." Mrs. Ly, standing nearby, couldn't stop smiling. "My son never cried when he was born," she said teasingly. "But look at him now, tearing up like a baby just hearing the word twins." The room burst into laughter. Jack rubbed his neck, embarrassed but happy. "Can you blame me? I've waited my whole life for this kind of happiness." When the neighbors left and the evening quiet returned, the family sat by the fireplace. Mrs. Ly took out an old knitted blanket and ran her fingers along the edges. "Your grandmother made this for you, Jack. I think it's time to bring it back to life, for your little ones." Jack's eyes softened. "I remember that blanket. You used to wrap me in it every night." Mrs. Ly smiled, her gaze distant. "Now it'll hold your children. The cycle continues." She looked at Tu Tien with affection. "You've brought light back into this house, dear. You've given my son, and me, something to live for again." Tu Tien's eyes shimmered. "It's not just me," she said softly. "It's all of us, this family." Jack reached for both their hands, linking them together. The warmth that flowed between them was quiet but powerful, a bond unspoken, stitched together through love, struggle, and forgiveness. The next few weeks passed gently. The house grew livelier each day as preparations began for the babies. Mrs. Ly spent her afternoons knitting tiny hats and socks, humming old lullabies. Jack built a crib out of oak wood, sanding each corner with meticulous care. One evening, Tu Tien walked into the half-finished nursery. The air smelled faintly of sawdust and new paint. She stood there for a long moment, tracing her fingers along the edge of the crib. Jack looked up from where he was tightening a screw. "You like it?" "It's beautiful," she said softly. "You built this yourself?" He nodded, wiping sweat from his brow. "Every piece. I wanted their first bed to come from my hands." Tu Tien smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "You're going to be an amazing father, Jack." Jack chuckled, walking over to her. "And you," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "You'll be the heart of this home." They stood there together, gazing at the crib, a simple wooden frame that symbolized everything they'd lost and found again. The faint hum of crickets outside, the flickering lamplight, the rhythm of their breaths, all fused into one serene moment. A few days later, Mrs. Ly came into the room holding two small knitted hats, one blue, one pink. "For the dragon and the phoenix," she said proudly. Tu Tien gasped softly, taking them into her hands. The yarn was soft, the stitches perfectly neat. "They're lovely," she whispered. Mrs. Ly smiled, her voice trembling slightly. "I haven't made anything like this in years, but when I think of them, I feel young again." Jack walked in with his camera, grinning. "We need to capture this, the 3 generations." He snapped a photo as Tu Tien laughed, holding up the tiny hats beside her belly, while Mrs. Ly wrapped an arm around her shoulder. The laughter in that frame was pure, the kind that heals unseen wounds. That night, after Mrs. Ly had gone to bed, Jack and Tu Tien sat out on the porch once more. Fireflies blinked across the fields like floating stars. "You know," Jack said, "I used to think happiness was something you had to chase, that it was far away, hidden behind success or money." He turned to her, eyes soft. "But now I realize, it's right here, in the quiet, in you." Tu Tien leaned her head on his shoulder. "I feel the same. After everything, I just want peace, to raise them in love, to watch them grow." Jack smiled. "Then that's what we'll do." As months passed, the bond between them deepened. The storms that had once shattered their world now felt like distant memories. Their home, once empty and echoing with loss, now sang with laughter, footsteps, and the tender rhythm of new life preparing to arrive. One evening, the sky was painted with the deep orange of another setting sun. Tu Tien stood by the window, watching Jack outside as he repaired the garden fence. His sleeves were rolled up, his face glowing in the light. Mrs. Ly was watering the flower beds nearby, humming softly. Tu Tien smiled, her hands resting over her belly. The twins kicked gently, as if reminding her they were there, 2 heartbeats dancing within her. "Do you feel that?" she whispered, tears glimmering in her eyes. "You already know your father's voice, don't you?" She opened the window and called out, "Jack, they're moving again." Jack dropped the hammer and ran toward her, laughing. He placed his palm gently on her stomach, and when he felt the tiny kick, his face lit up like the dawn. "Hey there, little dragon, little phoenix," he said softly. "Daddy's here." Mrs. Ly joined them, smiling through tears. "They're strong, just like their parents." In that moment, with the wind carrying the scent of new life and the setting sun wrapping them in gold, everything felt complete. Tu Tien looked at Jack, her voice trembling with joy. "We made it, didn't we?" Jack kissed her forehead gently. "We did, and we'll keep making it, every single day." As twilight settled over the fields, the 3 of them stood together, Jack, Tu Tien, and Mrs. Ly, surrounded by the hum of life and the promise of tomorrow. The storms were gone, the fears had quieted, and in their place bloomed something stronger: love, family, and a future as bright as the sunrise that would come again tomorrow.